House will come back to order. House will come back to order. Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell? The clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions. Clerk will read.
Recognizing commending Chief of Police Randy Johnson on the occasion of his retirement. Recognizing commending Kevin Coolin Fox. Recognizing commending Tony Brown. Recognizing commending C.C. Wilson McGee. Recognizing commending Derek Harper. Recognizing and commending Charles Mitchell. Congratulating Virginia Freeman Ford on receiving the 2018 Yellow Rose Nikki T. Randall Servant Leader Award, commending Clayton County Public Schools for its achievements on behalf of Clayton County, recognizing and commending Peachtree Corners Baptist Church for their citizen ministry in its English as a second language program, commending and congratulating Adam Razavi. Recognizing June 20th, 2018 is Diabetic Peripheral Neuropathy Alert Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing, commending Nettie Washington Douglas, commending Leadership Paulding 28, and for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privilege resolution.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 890.
House Bill 890 by Representative Fleming of the 121st to be titled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 11 of Title 16. The official code of Georgia annotated relating the offenses against public order so as to make it unlawful to use an emergency exit after having shoplifted. This bill will have referred to the Committee of Judiciary, Non-Civil. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Fleming to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you today House Bill 890. Unfortunately, nationwide, not only in the state of Georgia, but nationwide, there is an almost epidemic of shoplifting going on. This bill attempts to help with that situation. One of the things that is happening now is that shoplifting is becoming an organized process for the criminals that are doing it. They literally have a list of things they give to a person to go shoplift just to make sure that they stay under the felony amount. They also more recently have been telling shoplifters, now when you get the things we tell you to steal, go out that fire door, that emergency door in the back. You have a better chance of getting away than if you go through the front doors, because that's quite often where security is. Not only is that a terrible thing because it's a crime in and of itself, but when you go out that fire door in the back, of course the alarms go off, and of course that causes a mild panic sometimes inside the store. But what is more dangerous is it's happening so often is that sooner or later people are going to quit paying attention to when that fire alarm goes off on the emergency door, and those consequences could be even worse. So the Retail Association came and asked, please help us with this. I sent them to the prosecuting attorneys and said, go through this with them. And the one thing they came back that we needed to change was the fact that using that fire door, that emergency door, to shoplift in and of itself is not a misdemeanor. Now, the idea behind this is these groups are so organized that the word will get out amongst them that if you do indeed use that fire door to shoplift, you're going to add one more separate misdemeanor to the charges against you. That's all the bill does. It's very short in front of you. It adds and makes sure that under Georgia law, using that emergency door for the purpose of shoplifting is also a misdemeanor. Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions anyone has.
You have a couple of questions if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I'd be happy to.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon to your left for a question.
Parliamentary inquiry. May I ask you a question? Would this measure apply to juveniles 16 and under as a misdemeanor?
It would not change the law as it affects a juvenile. If it's a misdemeanor currently, it would be a misdemeanor under this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you further yield?
Absolutely. I'll take another one, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Vernon Jones to your left for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Mr. Representative, isn't it true that you and I just had a brief conversation as this relates to minors?
We did have a chance to do that as I was pretty much walking down here. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And is it further true that although I support your bill and I agree what you're trying to do, that my concern was based on minors making mistakes? Young people
Sure.
do make mistakes. And would this apply to a minor, or would you consider, as you track this through, because we had talked about, weren't sure if they would be eligible because it's not a felon, it's a misdemeanor. Would you still consider, as your bill travel, to see if you can omit or consider omitting minors, at least the first offense?
Well, I think what the representative is asking me probably already exists under Georgia law. As the members of the House know, there's something called the First Offenders Act. And whether you break this misdemeanor that we would be creating or another, you could still plead before a judge under the First Offenders Act. As also is known is that when you're under a certain age, the offense goes to juvenile court. And the juvenile court has a different tool bag, if you would, of things that they can do to help a young person. So whether a young person has broken this misdemeanor law or another misdemeanor law, all those options are still available to them no matter what court they're in front of. So whether it be First Offenders Act or juvenile court judge, there still would be options to deal with a young person differently, even if we pass this law, just like it is now for any other misdemeanor they would break. Mr. Speaker,
You further yield?
I'll take one more, Mr. Speaker. I'd be happy to.
Chair recognizes Representative Reeves to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Absolutely.
Representative Fleming, isn't it true that I do a good bit of criminal defense practice?
You do. I would hire you if I needed one.
You may need me, but isn't it also true that I've represented several juveniles in juvenile criminal proceedings, and isn't it further true that in many instances they are able to get alternative programs, such as their charges being held in abeyance and other diversion type programs, that even though they are charged and prosecuted as juveniles, their cases are handled strikingly different than if they were of majority age?
I think the gentleman is absolutely correct, and I may be mistaken, but I think Representative Reeves is the only prosecutor, former prosecutor, currently serving in this House, so you know exactly what you're speaking of, and that's what I meant when I said to Representative Jones, there's a whole different list of options you can deal with a juvenile who's committed an offense under this misdemeanor or any other. I think you're absolutely correct. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the gentleman's question, and I think we understand what we're voting on, so I'm going to go ahead and yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration of HB 890. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 890 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 890, the ayes are 114, the nays are 46. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1090.
House Resolution 1090 by Representative Watson of the 172nd. Resolution authorizing the change of certain use of real property located in Jeff Davis County currently dedicated as a heritage preserve and authorizing the grant of a revocable license agreement and a non-exclusive easement. This bill having been referred to the Committee on State Properties, that committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman Watson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you H.R. 1090, and all we're doing here is allowing for some permanent easements of transfer from Department of Natural Resources to GDOT to 4-lane a highway in Crisp County, and also to build a new bridge that was built in 1951 in Jeff Davis County over the Altamaha River. And that's all we're doing in this bill, and I would appreciate your support.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of House Resolution 1090, the ayes are 166. The nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 909.
House Bill 909 by Representative Silcox of the 52nd and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2A, Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to the Department of Public Health so as to provide for the designation of perinatal facilities. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Silcox to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Excuse me. I bring to you today House Bill 909. House Bill 909 is proposed by the Department of Public Health. This bill would allow DPH to develop a voluntary system to designate hospitals for their level of maternal and neonatal care, similar to what the state currently does with trauma, stroke, and cardiac care centers. This legislation would allow us as a state to develop levels of care that are appropriate for Georgia. DPH would spend the next year working with hospitals and providers to define the levels through the rulemaking processes. Hospitals would be able to apply for designations beginning in 2019, but they would not be required to apply. This legislation is an important step toward reducing the very high maternal and infant mortality rates we have in Georgia. I ask for your favorable consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Do you have any questions? If there are no questions,
You have a question if you care to yield.
I will yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Buckner to your left for a question.
Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, I do.
Do you know if there will be any restrictions put if there are two hospitals that provide obstetrical care in the same community? Could they both receive this designation, or would it be just for one?
My understanding is they could receive a similar rating.
Okay, so both
Yes.
could. Okay, thank you. It's a good bill.
Thank you so much. If there are no further questions,
No further questions.
I'll yield the well. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 909 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 909. The ayes are 168, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Rules Committee for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Y'all thought y'all were going to get out of here early, but you ain't. There will be a Rules Committee meeting at 2:15. 2:15.
Chairman Meadows announces that there will be a meeting of the House Rules Committee at 2:15. In view of that announcement, the House will be in recess until 2:45.